Deputy President David Mabuza will today in the National Assembly answer questions from members of Parliament. The questions will range from the rollout of vaccines, Eskom, military veterans and moral regeneration and more. Let's take you live to that.
This is what I'm talking about.
Given an indication of which questions their members wish to pose a supplementary question. Adequate notice was given to parties for this purpose. This was done to facilitate participation of members who are connecting to the sitting through the virtual platform. The members who will pose supplementary questions will be recognized by the presiding officer. In allocating opportunities for supplementary questions, the principle of fairness, amongst others, has been applied. If a member who is supposed to ask a supplementary question through the virtual platform is unable to do so due to technological difficulties, the party whip on duty will be allowed to ask the question on behalf of their member. When all the supplementary questions have been answered by the Deputy President, we will proceed to the next question on the question paper. Members asking supplementary questions or raising points of order may remain seated when doing so. The first question has been asked by the Honorable L.E. Mulala to the Deputy President. I've been informed that the Deputy President will be answering questions from the chamber, as you can see. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As government, we have created a regulatory environment that is very conducive to opening up the market for alternative power generation producers. Within the framework of the Integrated Resource Plan, alternative energy generation measures are being explored and implemented to augment electricity supply and improve the stability of the grid. In addition, the President announced the amendment of Schedule 2 of the Electricity Regulation Act of 2000, increasing the embedded generation threshold from 1 to 100 megawatts. In this regard, Honorable Speaker, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has amended the electricity regulations of new generation capacity and has adjusted has put together processes that should be followed to ensure the requests by municipalities for own generation are speedily attended to. Currently, Honorable Speaker, 292 small-scale generators have registered with NERSA and have the total generation capacity of 187 megawatt. The Independent Power Producers Office is processing offers by independent power producers for approval by Eskom and National Treasury. Furthermore, the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy has issued determinations on the required new generation capacity in concurrence with NERSA. The determination made resulted in the procurement of 7,309 megawatt from renewable energy. Most of these power plants are already operational, with less than 400 megawatts still under construction. We can report, Honorable Speaker, that the following achievement has been made. Preferred bidders for 2,600 megawatts for renewable energy, known as bid window 5, were announced in 2021 with the financial close plan for April 2022. The request for our proposals for 2,600 megawatts of renewable energy under bid window 6 is scheduled for release this end of March. Request for proposals for 513 megawatts of battery storage is scheduled to be released by the end of April this year. Request for proposals for 1,600 megawatts of renewable energy under bid window 7 will be issued in August 2022. However, we must make the point that Eskom's load shedding is not as a result of limited market role for alternative power generation, but mainly as a result of breakdowns encountered from the old and aging power generation infrastructure. The Eskom Political Task Team continues to provide support to ensure that Eskom meets its obligation of providing electricity. This support includes ensuring that Eskom, in the short term, is able to implement credible and transparent national maintenance program to ensure that power generation plants operate at optimal level to reduce negative impacts of electricity supply disruptions. Collectively, Honorable Speaker, these measures are aimed at addressing the current load shedding and future power generation needs. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I've been informed, honorable members, that Honorable MJ Volmarans will take charge of the question in terms of Rule 137, 10A from the Chamber.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Deputy President. Since the objective of the Risk Mitigation Independent Power Producers Procurement Program is to procure energy from projects that are near completion, and given that the energy availability factor is responsible for load shedding, what role should the Risk Mitigation Independent Power Producers Procurement Program play in strengthening of the grid amid the declining supply of energy? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and thanks for the follow-up question. The emergency procurement process was solely meant to augment the current short-term supply gap, alleviate the current electricity supply constraints, and reduce the extensive utilization of diesel-based peaking electricity generators. Of course, this goes well and bodes well for our mixed generation capacity into the future to allow more and more independent power producers to come into the grid. This goes according to our RIP 2019. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable NLS Kwangwa.
Indeed. Deputy President, you will recall that the Integrated Resource Plan 2019 identifies the necessary generation mix of technologies to respond to the country's demand for electricity in the medium term. And that in terms of the risk mitigation independent power producers procurement program, projects are supposed to be connected to the grid as from August 2022. However, you are aware that the deadline for the independent bidders was extended 3 times. The initial deadline was July 2021, the second one was 30 September, and the last one was January 2022. And since the January 2022 one, we are not aware of any public communication from the department whether or not the 11 bidders have achieved financial close. What are you going to do to make sure that, as is indicated in the risk mitigation independent power producers program, that indeed these projects are connected to the grid to boost up the energy for the country? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the follow-up question. To date, I think above 6,000 megawatts have been connected to the grid, flowing from independent power producers. I'm aware that 400 megawatts are still under construction. Of course, there are delays unforeseen, which are delaying the connection to the grid, but already we're hopeful that the process will go according to plan, because already more than 6,000 megawatts have been connected. So we're heading there. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable GKY Kachalia.
Clearly, the market needs to be opened up to help resolve our electricity crisis, and note that in this regard, the RMIPP has been postponed for the 3rd time. And part of this solution involves gas to fill the gap currently plugged by expensive and dwindling diesel supplies. Now, given that we missed the boat in securing a gas block in Mozambique, and that the ANC is sitting on the upstream bill, which would remove some aspects of ministerial discretion, thank God, can the Deputy President shed much needed light on the prospective deals between Russia's Gazprom Bank and Azerbaijan's SOCAR and the CEF to build a 7 billion rand natural gas to electricity plant at Kucha, which incidentally has no pipeline and will cost 50 million. Is this perhaps a replacement for the nuclear deal that the Cape High Court deemed unlawful and is now part of a suite of Russian investments in other provinces, which may explain our dismal stance on Russian aggression in the Ukraine?
Will you please raise your question? The Honorable Deputy President.
Honorable Speaker, I'm not aware of these projects, especially those that are Russian connected. Not aware. I'm not aware. I'm not aware of those projects. Yes, especially. The only thing I can confirm, honorable members, is that discussions between our minister here of Minerals Resources and Mozambique are quite advanced in terms of gas that we should transport from Mozambique to the country. I can safely say that we have reached an agreement. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable OMC Mawotwe.
Thank you very much, a beautiful speaker. Deputy President, the Minister of Public Enterprise. She's beautiful.
You are out of order. Thank you, Deputy President.
Madam Speaker, you are very much beautiful. Deputy President, the Minister of Public Enterprises indicated that Eskom is in the process of establishing a clean energy unit within Eskom, which will work towards ensuring that Eskom itself produces renewable energy for the country. If Eskom has the capacity to produce renewable energy by itself and help the just transition process, why has government invested so much money on independent power producers who are going to be competition to Eskom? And realistically, can IPP supply the energy demands for the country's industrial demands? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. It was important for us to open and follow the IRP 2019, open the market, because the demand is just too huge, and currently Eskom cannot meet the demand. As we're speaking, Eskom has started to repurpose Komati Power Station into renewable, with the capacity of 244 megawatts and battery storage, which is a good sign from the Eskom side. But of course, renewable energy takes long, and the projects connect low amount of megawatts into the grid. I said 292 small generators collectively have connected 187 megawatts, which is very low in terms of the need of the country. As much as we open the market, but Eskom should proceed. Now, we are going to repurpose probably 6 or 7 power stations, your Camden, your Grootfontein, that have reached their lifespan. So this process is proceeding. Thank you very much.
Question number 2 has been asked by the Honorable NWA Mazoni to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Indeed, on the 10th of March this year, we consulted the traditional and quiescent leaders on progress made in the fight against the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. We communicated to them the intention of government to lift the state of disaster as advised by the National Coronavirus Command Council, including calling on each sector to develop its own sector plan to continue fighting the spread of COVID-19. The traditional and quiescent leaders, Honorable Speaker, expressed support for the work done by government in the implementation of the COVID-19 risk-adjusted strategy. The leaders also encouraged government to fast-track the finalization of amendments to the health regulation towards ending the national state of disaster. The leaders further committed to continue in partnering with government on the path of advancing efforts on communities vaccinating against COVID-19 pandemic and in the spirit of saving lives and livelihoods. In accelerating our vaccination program, we have consistently ensured that we also consult with our interfaith leaders to solicit their inputs and access places of worship to promote vaccination. In our view, these consultations, which are not only with the traditional and quiescent leaders, have reaffirmed South Africa's strength of working in partnership with various social partners for the common good of our country. The success we have achieved in bringing down COVID-19 infections, hospitalization, and deaths is due to strong partnership with various social formations and communities. We must, Honorable Speaker, thank the private sector, thank organized labor, our civil society, sports federations, athletes, artists and cultural workers, as well as all vaccine ambassadors who gave time and resources to partner with government in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. I thank you.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N.W.A. Mazuni.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Deputy President. Deputy President, let me start out by saying I could not wait for my vaccine. I was the first person in line. I was the first person to have my second vaccine, and I've had my booster.
Good.
I am a very big believer in science, and I know we can't force anyone to believe it, but I believe in it, and if I could, I would shout it from the rooftops that we need our vaccines. And it's something that I have to actually applaud government on when I turn on an SABC channel, that there are adverts about the vaccine telling us that the vaccine is safe. We know that the vaccine is safe. But I can't believe I'm going to utter these words, because for me, I'm so sick of hearing about commissions and command councils and things like that. But I honestly think that it's time that we have a commission of our traditional leaders and our elders who go around to areas where younger people...
What is your question, Honourable Member?
My question, Madam Speaker, is would the Deputy President consider having a commission that would go around, made up of the elders of the Khoisan and traditional leaders, to go to the areas and explain how safe the vaccine is and why it is so important that people have the vaccine?
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think we have started the process with traditional leaders. We started last year as we're trying to push very hard to reach our target in December. We're together with traditional leaders, interfaith leaders, as well as traditional healers. They all agreed to partner with government to encourage our people to vaccinate. I think we should continue that way. Probably putting a commission would be too expensive, another structure again. But it's very easy to work with traditional leaders to go to their communities, go to where people live. These traditional communities, they are willing to take up these vaccines. So the strategy now is to take the vaccines to our people, where they live. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable T.B. Munyai from the Chamber.
Thank you very much, indeed, the Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity. And thank you, His Excellency, Honourable Deputy President Mabuza, for answering the question. His Excellency, President Ramaphosa has described vaccination rollout as the largest emergency project to be managed by the democratic government. Due to the vast distribution system required to inoculate millions of South Africans, we welcome the fact that this program has led to 17.8 million South Africans who are fully vaccinated, whilst 33.4 million doses has been administered in the country. As the chairperson of the Interministerial Committee on COVID-19 vaccine, what capabilities has this program built in our healthcare system? What lessons have been learned in harnessing the entire healthcare system, inclusive of the private sector, as envisaged by the ANC National Health Insurance Policy. Thank you, the Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I think through this mega project, government has learned to work together with civil society, private sector, and a whole range of stakeholders to implement this project. It was not an easy journey. It was not an easy journey. We're still in that journey. Of course, there are notable achievements that we've made because we've managed to vaccinate that number of our people. Of course, we have not reached our target. We're still calling upon our people to get out in their numbers to go and vaccinate. I heard yesterday someone was urged here to go and vaccinate. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Reverend, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to go and vaccinate. This is the only protection that is scientifically proven that can help us from this COVID-19. We have learned through this project to manage a pandemic. And I think in the process, we've managed to build a very resilient and a strong health system. We're not going to succeed and be where we are if we had a weak health system. And we must upfront thank our health workers. Some of them died in the line of duty. They were brave enough not to surrender, but to go forward and ensure that people are vaccinated. So we must thank them. And we must thank Minister of Health, the entire department, for all the courage and the hard work to try and get everyone vaccinated. You were everywhere in the country, and this has taught us some lessons that we need to partner with our people. And the department has done very well. We must thank them. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Hlengwa through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy President, together with the entire Ministerial Committee, what discussion you have had with the Amakosi in the KZN province regarding funding, logistics, planning, and public education for accelerated rollout for the COVID-19 vaccination? I thank you.
The Honorable the Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Our meeting with the traditional leaders and Khoisan leaders in KZN was a very successful meeting. And I must say, we must thank the province of KZN, provincial government, because what we found out today is that they are working with the traditional leaders. They are carrying out programs together. And some of the programs were led by Ingonyama, the late Ingonyama himself, and the entirety of the family of traditional leaders followed. They are doing very well. They are partnering with government, and they are prepared to go an extra mile. In the midst of the COVID-19 waves that we have gone through, KZN was amongst those provinces that were very hard hit by COVID-19. And through that partnership with traditional leaders and interfaith leaders, they managed to pull through. Of course, with the number of people that were lost. And we must thank the traditional leaders, their partnership with the government of KZN. In Limpopo, the same. In Mpumalanga, the same, where I went. And finally, I went to the Northern Cape, is the same. So traditional leaders are on board and they are prepared to work with government. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable K.R.J. Mishwe from the Chamber.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Deputy President, people lose trust in government for a number of reasons, including lack of transparency, telling half-truths and unfulfilled promises. Early last week, you met with religious leaders to discuss matters around COVID-19 and vaccinations, but did not inform them that churches with more than 1,000 members meeting indoors would be required, according to the latest draft National Health Act regulations, to ensure that those attending have a vaccination certificate. Such an omission has left these leaders feeling betrayed by government. My question is whether or not you discussed this requirement when you met with the National House of Traditional and Khoisan leaders. And if so, what was the reason for not raising this important issue with religious leaders when you last met? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure Honorable Reverend was not part of that meeting with the religious leaders. So you will not know exactly what we've discussed. Could be a hearsay. Could be a hearsay. But to be honest with you, I've consulted them. I was not alone. In fact, I was with the Minister of Kokta, and I was with the Deputy Minister of Health. These are the two that have presented our proposals, and they've left no stone unturned. They've said everything. Now, just to tell you the response of the interfaith leaders. Firstly, they requested that we must relax the regulation on the wearing of masks, especially for children in their Sunday classes. They've requested that. And they said they are not happy about the requirement that everyone who goes to church, if it's above the 2,000, the 1,000 inside, if they want to go 50% of the venue, they must produce a vaccine certificate. They said they are not happy with that. They are not happy with that. They don't have a problem if a venue outside, like in your stadium, you can produce a vaccine certificate. But they've got a problem if that is done in the church. So that's what they told us. The traditional leaders, they said, thumbs up, everything good. That's it. Thank you.
Question number 3 has been asked by the Honorable N.F. Shivambu to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Our energy generation is guided by the Integrated Resource Plan 2019, which provides for the use of all energy resources available in the country. This includes, among others, coal, gas, and renewable energy resources. Currently, Honorable Speaker, there are no plans for the discontinuation of the use of coal, as 99% of South Africa's electricity supply is derived from coal, and 30% of our liquid fuels are derived from the same commodity, coal. Coal remains one of our largest natural endowments that will continue to form part of our energy mix in terms of the IRP 2019. Notwithstanding this fact, our country is committed to forging ahead a low-carbon growth plan that prioritizes environmental sustainability in line with our constitutional and international obligation. We need to ensure that we deploy new infrastructure, technologies, and solutions that enables us to adhere to the ambient air quality standards and protect the lives of communities from the negative impact of the carbon emissions. Going forward, the RIP 2019 proposes the use of high-efficiency, low-emissions coal technologies. Government is currently working on other measures such as the Gas Utilization Master Plan and the Renewable Energy Master Plan. We are exploring the development of nuclear procurement framework as proposed in the RRP 2019. All these are part of the medium and the long-term plans in ensuring security of energy supply. Having said that, Honourable Speaker, it is important to point out that out of the entire fleet, there are planned optimized plant shutdowns that are aligned with the Integrated Resource Plan to balance capacity, environmental, social, and economic considerations. This is inevitable because in the main, these plants are approaching the end of their lifespan and have become uneconomically unpredictable and very costly to run. 9 coal-fired power stations will be shut down by 2035, thereby impacting significantly on the reduction of generation capacity. From a power generation perspective, this is an immediate priority to address the issues of generation capacity losses resulting from the planned decommissioning of these power stations. Of course, the decommissioning of the existing coal-fired power plants will drive the demand for new capacity. As coal-fired units and stations are shut down, it is essential that new capacity is added to the grid to ensure energy security. In addition, the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy has tabled a plan for an additional 8,000 megawatts clean energy projects to be added to the grid over the next 2 to 5 years. This is a combination of greenfield renewables and gas projects, as well as repowering its existing coal sites as the coal plants shuts down. The cost of renewable energy technologies continue to decline as compared to when we started with bid window 1. And this will add generation capacity sooner and thus reducing the risk of load shedding. For example, solar projects now take between 18 to 24 months to complete, depending on their scale. Wind projects have a lead time of between 24 to 36 months, and gas requires 24 to 60 months to complete. Of course, that depends on the amount of megawatts that are being constructed. Our current focus in the implementation of the just energy transition is Komati Power Station as the first coal-fired power station to be repurposed. It will be repurposed in the next 12 to 18 months, of which we have started already, using solar, supported by 244 megawatt battery storage. Komati is ideally positioned to be a flagship just energy transition project to act as a proof of concept for subsequent projects like at Grootvlei, Hendrina, Camden power stations. These are power stations that will follow because they are scheduled to retire just before 2035. Clearly, the socio-economic impact will be dire if nothing is done to implement just energy transition plans that will repower and repurpose these plants to sustain local economic development, activities and job creation in the areas that will be affected by the shutdowns. We need to state up front that any just transition that government will undertake will be done sensibly and in the best interest of the South African economy. As part of the energy transition process, studies were conducted on the impact of plant shutdowns on communities where these Eskom plants are located. Studies based on the Integrated Resource Plan program demonstrate that 300,000 net direct, indirect, and induced jobs could be created over the next decade by investing in the cleaner energy program as described in the IRP 2019. The studies have also looked into the mining project with specific attention to the repurposing of old mines, infrastructure and mine water, as well as the rehabilitation of mining land or property for farming opportunities. A significant element of Eskom just energy transition strategy is to ensure that efforts, initiatives and projects are aimed at safeguarding impacted and affected communities as far as it is possible when a coal plant is shut down. The repurposing and repowering of stations to be shut down will also involve the reskilling and the upskilling of staff and communities to match and align their skills with new opportunities offered by emerging sectors, especially in renewable energy sectors. Our approach to the renewable energy sector must not only focus on energy generation, but must also have at its center the goal to stimulate local manufacturing, reindustrialization in partnership with other industries and government, especially in the communities where these shutdowns are being planned. It must be a program that contributes to the reindustrialization and stimulation of South African manufacturing sector through localization of supply chain of components, technology and equipment, while impacting on the development of black and women industrialists. We Without grid deployment, our new generation capacity development will be mute. The development of the transmission grid in the Northern Cape and Eastern Cape provinces is paramount to the addition of new generation capacity. In aligning these plans to the expansion of the country's generation capacity, Eskom has tabled a transmission development plan for this purpose, which indicates that 8,000 kilometers of line must be built in the next 10 years. This project will require significant financing, which Eskom has tabled as part of the just energy transition financing and regulatory support to acquire land and servitude. In the final policy-adjusted scenario, the costs that come with the transition should not be ignored, especially in the context of our fiscal constrained environment. The speed at which we'll be able to move will be determined by the scope and scale and availability of resources. Due diligence will be taken to manage the just energy transition, financing modalities in a responsible manner that does not collapse the economy and burden the fiscus with unsustainable debt obligations. It is our conviction, Honorable Speaker, that our undivided focus on the implementation of our just energy transition and the completion of the restructuring of Eskom will in future deliver energy supply security and a much-needed reprieve from the negative impact of load shedding. I thank you.
Honorable members, I've been informed that Honorable NV Mente will take charge of the question in terms of Rule 13710A.
Siyabulela Speaker nobuhle bakho.
Indaba ngulo red. Now I realize.
Solidarity there. Speaker Manbulele, Deputy President, with your answer, I find it very difficult to believe it because right at the end, exactly what was going through my mind was the balance sheet of Eskom is not saying what you are saying. And the internal affairs of Eskom are not saying what you are saying. Now, there is two things. You are also indicating that the socio-economic impact of this is dire to our people, it already is. In fact, Eskom has given a literal meaning to black people being hewers of wood, because we've gone back to making fire outside. People cannot afford electricity. Now, with this plan, which requires a lot of money, but there is, on the other hand, a just transition, and we have to repurpose some of the energy plants. And we have the Eskom that does not have capacity internally with a negative balance sheet. How is this all going to be done? Who is going to monitor it? Where is this money going to come from? I hear you say you don't want to burden Treasury, but where will the money be identified from? And who is going to get this electricity by 2035? Because right now, if you buy electricity for 50 rand, you get 10 units. Who is going to buy it 2035 when you have repurposed all these energy plants? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And thanks for the question. The honorable member will remember that government took a decision to support Eskom by giving Eskom more or less above 219 billion over a span of 3 years. And we're still on that route. Eskom will still continue to receive, for the next 1 year, will still receive its share, its support from government. But the Minister of Finance indicated that this is going to be discontinued. Eskom must find a way of stabilizing itself. In the current situation, if you look at the balance sheet of Eskom, Eskom is starting to show a positive outlook. Of course, with the cushion that is coming from government. We've assisted Eskom and all energy users like government department, municipalities, we put pressure on them to pay. And they are paying. National government, I must report that all departments have paid. Coordinated by the Minister of Public Works, they've paid what they owe from Eskom. And we are still encouraging municipalities. We're doing arrangements, SLPs, a joint program between Eskom and the municipalities to allow Eskom to collect money from users and pay what is due to municipalities. This is an attempt to try and get Eskom back to its original form in terms of finances. Currently, Eskom is doing this project in Komati, repurposing that old power plant into renewable. And Eskom is doing it with its own money. And that process is happening. We might not be moving at the pace that we are envisaging, but we are getting there. We must also say, I've said it in the reply, that the renewables, when you look at the first bid window 1, the renewables were very costly to Eskom. But if you look at bid window 5, the renewables are affordable to Eskom. So that means down the line, we're expecting the price of electricity to go down because of the impact of renewables that we are opening up to the grid. So this situation is not going to stay the same. As much as we are being affected by load shedding because of our old plants, we are discontinuing these plants, we are repurposing them step by step until we stabilize our energy security. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S. Luzipo from the Chamber.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, Honorable Deputy President. Recent statistics show that unemployment has risen to about 35.3% in the first quarter of 2021, and it is estimated that 66% of that is jobless youth. That suggests that we are faced with a serious problem, and therefore any just transition or movement from high to low emissions must also be about addressing the triple challenges of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, rather than increasing the levels of these challenges. And therefore, what is government's position in this regard, as we can ill afford to lose existing sources of employment? Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I'm in the House, no placards.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. We have stated in our reply that one plan is to try and reskill and upskill those that are currently employed in those power stations that are planned to be closed, in an attempt to retain those that are working currently. But still, we're mindful of the impact of the closure into the surrounding communities. We are saying, let's re-industrialize. Ensure that you create industrialists in those communities, open up the market for them to produce services rather than relying on Eskom. Because currently what is happening is that jobs are only secured in the mines where they mine the coal, and jobs are secured in the power station where the coal is being utilized. And in between, the transportation of the coal from a mine to a power station, those are the jobs that are there currently. But in terms of repurposing and upskilling of our people in the mine, in the power stations, we're going to retain them there. They are moving from coal to renewables. In this case, in Komati, we're going solar. And we're going to have people that will be employed in that power station. Of course, there are new power stations that demand a lot of coal. And I've cautioned that we are moving away from high carbon emissions. We're looking at technologies that will lower the carbon emissions. But Medupi and Usile are new power stations that will still consume coal. In the near future, we must find technologies that will reduce the emissions. That is a commitment that we're not going to run away from. But the best permanent solution is to re-industrialize those communities around these power stations that are going to be closed, must be able to employ themselves, must be able to produce services that they can sell to the market. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable A.M. Sheikh Imam through the virtual platform.
Speaker, Deputy President, we are a very suspicious nation. Your visit to Russia and our neutral stance on the Russian-Ukraine conflict is making people very suspicious about this gas deal. However, my question to you is, many of these mining areas, particularly coal mining in this particular instance, now we know that as a result of the pressure internationally, that it will also affect our exports of coal, which means it will be reduced the revenue. But very important, Deputy President, my concern is, and I'm going to give you an example of Atlantis on the west coast of the Western Cape, how it became a ghost town after the industrialization was reduced. What can we expect out of these areas surrounding these mines? Is there not a risk or a danger that they could also become ghost towns with high levels of unemployment and poor socio-economic conditions that our people will live on? Thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Firstly, we must remove this suspicion about myself going to Russia. It's purely a medical process. Purely a medical process. There's nothing sinister. There's nothing hidden. From here, I go to hospital. And from hospital, come back. Okay.
Order.
I'm sure honorable members will respect the choice of an individual to choose a hospital, to choose That's a choice. Thank you very much. Now the question.
Honorable members.
Oh, I've excited you now. Now the question about the closure of these power stations and the surrounding communities. Now, we are taking Komati Power Station as a pilot, and all what we're doing now, we've employed more people in Komati, more than the number that was there before, but some of the jobs will end when the power station is commissioned, but there are certain jobs that will remain. Now, the plan about the community, as I said, the only permanent solution is to re-industrialize, reskill those people, allow them to be producers of services that they can sell in the market, supported, of course, by government. Who knows? Probably these communities can produce solar panels that will be utilized in those power stations. There are a number of commodities that are going to be utilized in those power stations that we can open up the market for these communities to produce. But let's take Komati Power Station as a pilot, and we're going to improve from that one. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable W.J. Boshoff through the virtual platform.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and Honorable Deputy President, thank you for the opportunity. I often think of pre-industrial times in which energy is not abundant but widely distributed, so that everybody would pick up its own work, its own work that it uses on a daily basis. Now that has all changed with fossil fuels, but in the solar age, it's actually changing back so that just to have a loop enables one to generate the energy that one might use for the own family and even some to sell. So what I want to ask is regarding the policy of independent generators, does it indicate that in the future, when an equivalent number of producers and consumers are linked to the power grid? In other words, with virtually every consumer is also a producer of electricity, having a smart grid with the capacity to utilize the country's geographic strength and variety of weather conditions. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Yeah, well, Honorable Speaker, difficult to hear, but I think the Honorable Member is talking about the embedded energy generation. The President announced the movement from 1 megawatt to 100. And that has led into the amendment of the Act, and it's happening. The sole purpose of that is to allow companies that that have the capacity to produce that energy to do so. But all that they must do is to register those operations with NERSA. That, in a way, is to try and allow companies to sustain their operations. They must not wait for Eskom. They must not be disrupted by load shedding. They must be able to generate themselves if their capacity does permit. So we are trying to open up the market. We've opened it enough that even small producers can come, so that we are trying to cushion and save our economy. Yes, we agree that load shedding had a lot of disruptions in our economy, but with these new interventions that we are bringing through the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy, I think we are putting a cushion we are assisting the economy to sustain itself going forward. Thank you very much.
That brings us to question number 4, which was asked by the Honorable M.R.M. Mutapo to the Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The President has established the Presidential Task Team on Military Veterans in order to ensure that, among others, there is urgent and continuous engagement with the community of military veterans in order to resolve their problems. The Presidential Task Team has since November 2020 held extensive consultation with different military veterans associations. Following these consultations, it became evident that a multifaceted approach that brings different spheres of government to collaborate in accelerating the delivery of benefits to military veterans was necessary. This will ensure that we sufficiently address the grievances of our military veterans. In advancing this holistic and integrated approach, the work streams drawn from a cross-section of government departments and provinces are seized with the task of resolving issues that have been raised by military veterans. Among other key issues, the work covers the improvement of socio-economic conditions, such as education, housing and employment, institutional support, heritage, legislative review, as well as pension and benefits of military veterans. As reported by the President to Parliament on the 25th of November 2021, significant progress has been made by respective technical work streams that are designated to focus on specific challenges that were raised. More specifically, the pension and benefit work stream is currently finalizing the pension policy that considers inadequacies that have been identified in the Military Pensions Act 84 of 1976. In addition, discussions between the Department of Military Veterans and the National Treasury about the provisioning of military pension as provided for by the current legislations are at an advanced stage. A draft report, which is required to support the proposed changes to the pension policy, will soon be presented to the executive authorities for consideration. In relation to the proposed Military Veterans Amendment Bill, the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans has taken an approach that emphasizes the importance of an extensive definition of a military veteran, the qualifying criteria for beneficiaries, and the role and existence of the South African National Military Veterans Association as a body that manages the affairs of military veterans. The Department of Military Veterans is currently in a process of ensuring that all inputs of stakeholders are incorporated into the bill. Furthermore, as of March this year, the department has also started working with Government Technical Advisory Center in preparation for the costing of the implementation of the bill. Once all required processes like socio-economic impact, assessment system report, and certification by the Office of Chief State Law Advisors are completed, the bill will then be presented to the Cabinet system for approval so that we can solicit public comments by the third quarter of this year. Thank you very much.
The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable M.R.M. Mutapo from the Chamber.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, it is very much encouraging to hear the initiatives which are being undertaken by our government in a multifaceted manner to seriously address the challenges faced by military veterans. The concern, however, Honorable Deputy President, is that of time. Quite a number of military veterans are of an advanced age and have to enjoy this benefit in their lifetime. My question is, how will the Honorable Deputy President ensure that these important interventions you have just mentioned are implemented speedily by all spheres of government to resolve the challenges facing military veterans? I thank you.
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, currently there are support services that are being implemented with which are prescribed by the current act that we seek to amend. By that I'm trying to say there is no vacuum. The military veterans, their dependents are receiving education. Their dependents, they are receiving support in terms of our healthcare system. Military veterans are receiving housing as we speak, working together with provinces. Some provinces have gone ahead to support military veterans in terms of building bigger houses. But what we seek to do, it should not be at the behest of individual provinces. It should be something that is prescribed in an act to say military veterans are going to get this and this and this and this and this. That is why the Minister of Defense is in a process of amending the act, which will be a lifelong situation in terms of the benefits that must be received by military veterans. We're trying very hard to consult and to amend the act. And I'm sure with the pension, also it's going to be prescribed by the Pension Act so that the military veterans can enjoy their pensions, whether statutory or non-statutory veterans. Thank you very much.
The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.J.F. Murray.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Deputy President, let's be honest, amendments to the Act alone will not change the failures of the department, will not fill the vacant critical positions, nor replace the unqualified, incompetent and uncommitted staff of the department, which are the main causes of the plight of the military veterans. A skills audit company was appointed, but they were paid before the job was done. The state of our economy and the ever-decreasing budget is not nearly enough for what the Act allows, for all the expectations created by the Presidential Task Team. What are being done by the Task Team to address these challenges amongst many and to assure fair treatment of all statutory and non-statutory military veterans with the respect they deserve as part of all these changes and amendments? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, right from the onset, when we were appointed by the President, the first problem that we encountered was the shortcomings in the Department of Military Veterans. And when we looked at that department, there were a lot of vacancies. The capacity of the department was not up to scratch. Now, there was no head of the department, of which currently we have appointed the head of the department, and trying very hard. We are trying to fill certain positions But overall, we're looking at the organizational design of the Department of Military Veterans, whether this current design is fit for the purpose that is designed for. Now, there's a work stream that is doing that job for us, and they're going to come with their own recommendation on how best to reshape the organizational design so that it can serve military veterans. That is one. I don't think we've increased expectations of the military veterans. I think they deserve to be supported by their own government because of the role that they've played in the development of the country. Yes, there are basic things that must be given to military veterans. They must have a pension. Whether those who are recognized as statutory forces, your former defense force, but we must also know that there were those like the MK who were not registered. They call them non-statutory forces. Those disparities must be corrected so that all of them can receive a pension. All of them their kids should be supported. All of them, they must have a subsidized transport because they are aging. They must also be supported in terms of their health. That is going to happen. That is going to happen because if we fail to look after our military veterans, we'll be failing as a country. We are currently costing the military veterans bill. There are discussions between the Minister of Defense and National Treasury to look at affordability of all the proposals that we want to incorporate in the bill. This is a positive step. Of course, we've got a selection and a work stream that looks at who is a military veterans, especially from those non-statutory forces. You will hear that there's noise there and there, but the work is proceeding, and finally all of them will be recognized for the contribution that they've played. So this has opened a new chapter in trying to formalize services that are given to military veterans. I think it was a good idea to create the Department of Military Veterans. It must be supported. Thank you very much.
The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable N.R. Mashabela.
Thank you, Speaker. Deputy President, when the integration process of the former soldiers of the liberation movement was completed in 2001, it was reported that 44,143 names appeared on the collective non-statutory force certified personnel register. Of this number, 15,805 were integrated into the defense force. 9,771 were demobilized, and 13,107 were neither integrated nor demobilized. The question is, does the government know what has since happened to those who were neither integrated or demobilized? And what are the risks that these abandoned soldiers pose to the country's security and rising rates of violent crimes? Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. I think those who were not demobilized, those who were not integrated, the respective political formations know these cadres. They know them. In the case of MK, they know them. But we don't want to assume, that's why we've opened up this verification process, for them to come so that they can be verified and be registered formally so that they can access these benefits. That's the process that we're taking. As much as we know them, but we don't want to be conclusive, that is why we have set up this testing, this work stream to verify them. So that going forward, we are quite certain that we are supporting the right people. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable MGE Hendricks through the virtual platform.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, MK, Apla, Azanla, and other combatants joined the SANDF but reached retirement age too quick to save for a house. The Defence Force has large tracts of land all over the country that can be allocated to them, even if it is just 300 square meters. We heard you talk about the many things we have to do to address their plight, and housing must not be excluded. The Navy in Simonstown has done so, identified the tracts of land that they're not going to need in the next 20, 30 years, and are busy to arrange that the land be given to former combatants, like I mentioned. So after Azama raised the matter with the Minister of Defence in Parliament, will you, Deputy President, identify other land that is available to fast track the availability of land for military veterans?
The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, we've got a work stream that looks at the socio-economic status of our veterans. That means the support that they must get in order to sustain a very good livelihood. Now, in that work stream, there is a commitment on the side of government, especially the Department of Agriculture, to avail land for military veterans to till that land and produce and sell their produce for their own livelihood. That commitment has been made and that work stream is there, and we said to the military veterans, let them come forward. They will be assisted to put business plans for them to try and enter the farming business. But most of them, they are too old to really engage on active farming. Some of them, they just require their pension. Some of them, they just need the support of their siblings, their dependents. Some of them, they just need a house. It will depend, therefore, from those military veterans that will step forward and say, I can still do this, I can still do this. But we'll be talking to them. We are talking to them directly, all of them, all the associations. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, question number 5 has been asked by the Honorable Z. Majozi to the Deputy President. The Honorable Deputy President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We must reiterate that the moral regeneration movement remains a critical platform to galvanize our society to advance the promotion of positive values and ethical conduct. These positive values empower us to confront deep-seated challenges of moral decay within our communities, including in our public service. This outlook is further underscored by the Auditor General when announcing the municipal audit outcomes of the 2019-2020 financial year. In that announcement, Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General pointed out that provincial leadership needs to work together with municipalities and focus on ensuring that political leadership sets the tone of ethical and courageous leadership, service orientation, good governance and accountability. We therefore support the Auditor General's call by encouraging members of Parliament, members of provincial legislatures, municipal councils to drive the desired change, especially in the local spheres of our government. This extends to political and administrative leaders in the executive branch of government to effectively play its part in ensuring that accountability in government spending and to inculcate a culture of ethical and accountable leadership in the service of our people. To this end, the National School of Government has since introduced a training program that will equip public officials, including municipal councils, with the required skills and competencies to make ethical decisions. The program is also aimed at equipping these officials to develop organizational integrity, prevent fraud and combat corruptions in the public sector. This is in line with the ongoing work of the Moral Regeneration Movement to implement its ethical leadership program for public office bearers, which includes the induction of newly elected municipal councils. To further augment the work of the Moral Regeneration Movement, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, in partnership with the South African Local Government Association, is implementing a project of ethical leadership in municipalities, which is called Local Government Ethical Leadership Initiative. The aim of the project is to develop a code of ethical governance for municipalities, which will have a similar standing as the King Code on corporate governance in the private sector. This is in line with one of the focus areas of the local government anti-corruption strategy, calling for national dialogue on ethical leadership in local government. This project is an ongoing project and is aimed at producing a code of ethical governance for our municipalities. Moral Regeneration Movement will continue to engage local and district municipalities to incorporate their anti-corruption strategies into their integrated development plans for implementation and sustainability support. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. The next chance is for Honorable Majozi.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy President, thank you for listing the success of such collaboration, and we welcome any progress government has made in this regard. However, to ensure better public service to the people of this country, We must understand the weaknesses so that there may be wider collaboration between all stakeholders. Take us into your confidence, Deputy President, so that we may all work together in achieving one goal of promoting moral values within our public sector. What are some of the difficulties that government is experiencing with the Department of Culture when reshaping the public sphere, and what specifically are some of the root causes of these problems within local government? Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, there are foreign tendencies that have crept in over time in our government system. And those tendencies are now seeking to threaten the moral standing of our nation. Corruption has become a problem. And you can only look at corruption in our public institutions and forget to look at this corruption that is within the nation. If you have got a good nation, a good society, you will have a limited prevalence of these social ills in our public institutions. Therefore, it is important for all of us, as much as we try to assist our spheres of government, whether local, provincial, national. But remember that those people that are employed there comes from communities. Communities that are affected by all these social ills. So, the point that I'm driving at is that as much as we want to seek to correct these problems, we must attend to the family as a basic unit. A unit that a society is built upon. It is only at home where a child is taught to behave in an ethical way. It is only at home that a child is taught to live amongst society members, to respect. Now, all that is an indication that our family unit is no longer strong as we expected it. Now, these children, these young people that are working in our institutions, they are from families. If they were well brought up, they were going to frown at corruption. They were going to frown at maladministration. Therefore, this is a societal challenge. It needs all of us to stand up and deal with it. This is the same as gender-based violence. This is the same as racism, sexism. These are social ills that must be dealt with, not by specific people, but by all of us. Thank you very much.
Honorable Khadebe.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Indeed, Honorable the Deputy President, there is a saying that charity begins at home. As such, I couldn't agree more with you with what you have just said. Now, Honorable the Deputy President, the institution of traditional leadership have a critical role to play on moral regeneration through entrenchment of cultural value system of Ubuntu. I would like to get an understanding how will this institution of traditional leadership strengthen its participation and contribution on moral regeneration movement of
President.
Thank you very much. We are talking to traditional leaders. We've got a standing formal arrangement that has been supported by the President, identified a few ministers to really engage with traditional leaders. They've got their own challenges. That indicates that from the communities where they come from, there are bigger problems. First problems, the availability of land where they stay. All their communities, especially the traditional communities, are not productively engaged in farming, whilst they've got land that is in the custody of these traditional leaders. Land is being invaded. There are those people that are advocating land invasion, which is incorrect, undermining the leadership of our traditional leaders. Okay.
Order.
Thank you very much for that correction. It's land occupation. Yes, there are those who are advocating for land occupation.
Order, honorable members.
Which is unlawful. Which is unlawful. The House of Traditional Leaders, part of the grievances that they've put across is that government is not supporting the House. They are not being recognized. There are a number of problems that are affecting the institution itself. So we have committed ourselves to work with them. But we want to put traditional and quiescent leaders at the center of our moral regeneration movement. We want to utilize traditional leaders to inculcate the traditional cultures which kept communities for so long together. We're all traditional, we're all coming from traditional communities, and we're taught certain cultures to live together, to respect one another. Now, this is what we want to achieve with traditional leaders, working with them, but also to fight all the social ills today, that all of us are now looking upon police to come and deal with these problems that can be dealt with by the community itself, by the society itself. So yes, this partnership that we're forging with traditional leaders, in the process we're going to resolve their problems, but we want to take them back to their communities so that they are respected and they continue to inculcate the good cultures that must prevail in any community, in any society. Thank you very much.
Deputy President. Honorable Brent.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy President, to be honest, I don't think we can blame bad parenting for the tide of corruption in local government, and neither will training seminars help to fix this problem. There is a breakdown of the rule of law. Now, last week, the head of the National Prosecuting Authority appeared before the COGTA Portfolio Committee, and she admitted that very little progress has been made on prosecuting cases of serious municipal corruption. Despite billions in irregular expenditure in the past 2 decades, only a fraction of the people involved have been convicted of criminal financial misconduct. Even if the NPA was well-resourced, which we know isn't, what we need is assistance of an independent body. So will the Deputy President support the DA's proposal of an investigative and prosecutorial body protected by the Constitution to do the job that the Scorpions used to do? Thank you very much.
Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Well, the question is appreciated, but I don't think when we're faced with a problem, all the time we create new structures. That's not a good way of, I mean, we are committing ourselves further and further. And all those structures will need money. So instead we must support the existing structures. Empower them. Empower them. They do work. They do work.
Where are the prosecutions? Show the prosecution.
So from where we're standing as government, when we went through the COVID-19, we created the Fusion Center, and we realized all the institutions that are meant to deal with corruption, they were collaborating, and we went through some of the people that were identified in those PPEs, corruption scandals, are brought to books. I mean, all those people who have been identified and they are being followed.
Prosecutions.
Now,
Where are the prosecutions?
I'm trying to say, when we've got a problem, let's avoid creating more and more structures. I'm confident that the capability of our institutions can deal with these problems, with our assistance. It is not only the public sector that is corrupt. The public sector is being corrupted by the private sector. And the private sector and some people everywhere where there is a corrupt public servant, there is a corruptee in the private sector. So, as much as we are looking at corruption within the public sector, we must also look at corruptions in the private sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Ntangwini, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. In August last year, COCTA reported to the Portfolio Committee that 16 municipalities were considered stable in the country, while 163 were under financial duress and 108 had unfunded budgets. Under these conditions, Deputy President, it is not possible for these municipalities to deliver any form of services to the citizens, who in most circumstances are the poor. What structural changes does the government intend to make to salvage the situation at the local spheres of government in the country? And do these include changing the funding mechanism to make rural municipalities more financially stable? Thank you.
President.
Thank you very much. Municipalities can be supported financially through their equitable share, but that is not sustainable. What is the role of a municipality? The role of a municipality is to deliver services at a if they deliver water, the consumers pay for the water. If they deliver electricity, the consumers pay. Now, our municipalities, they don't collect the necessary revenue. And as even if they collect the necessary revenue, there's a disjuncture. Revenue that must go to the maintenance of the infrastructure, that revenue goes to the payment of salaries. And we've got an aging infrastructure, there's water leakage, aging electricity infrastructure. There are mismatch in local government. So that is why we're requesting provincial government to assist and support municipalities in terms of making land available, put services on that land so that municipalities can sell the stands, can be able to put meters and bill. Now, I'm trying to say, a municipality is designed to sell services and sustain itself. It must sustain itself. Now, it should be preoccupied by increasing its revenue base, by ensuring that they allow more and more residents to come. There must be incentives that are created in the municipalities for people to pay, which our municipalities are not doing. They cannot, therefore, survive completely from the equitable share. With the equitable share, there are grants that are given to municipalities meant specifically for infrastructure, water infrastructure, electricity infrastructure, and even those grants are being diverted to salaries. It's unfortunate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question, number 6, is asked by Honorable Gulani to the Deputy President. Please, please, can you be orderly? Go ahead, Deputy President.
No. The next question.
Yes,
the last
question number 6, yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. I thought I'm expecting a follow-up question.
No,
thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. As of the 28th of March 2022, we have administered 33.5 million COVID-19 vaccines to 20.9 million individuals, including 19.35 million adults, as well as 1.55 million children aged 12 to 17 years. This, Deputy Speaker, translates to 48.6% of adults having received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccines. The coverage is not equal across all ages, with more than 68% of people 60 years and above of age having been vaccinated, compared with only 35% in those between the age of 18 and 34. Of course, while reaching unvaccinated older people and providing ongoing protection to this group of booster doses remains a priority, including cohort to 34 years old is also key to increase coverage at the population level. This strategy, which is protecting those that are vulnerable and increasing overall population coverage, it's important if the effects of any future waves are to be mitigated, especially given the easing of restrictions as announced by the President on the 22nd of March 2022. It is critical that more people are vaccinated in order to reduce the number of infections, especially the number of hospitalization and deaths associated with COVID-19 infections. This will also help a great deal to reduce the impact of any future waves. Poor demand for and uptake of vaccines remains the largest barrier to increasing vaccination coverage. However, we are encouraged by the efforts of a number of sectors of our society that have implemented policies and programs that are aimed at increasing the demand for and access to vaccination. Moreover, surveys as indicated by the CSIR have shown that many unvaccinated South Africans are not opposed to vaccination and are willing to vaccinate. In this regard, we are addressing identified structural barriers like bringing the vaccines closer to the people in order to address cost of getting to and from vaccination sites for those wanting to vaccinate. We do hope that more people will step forward and vaccinate so that we can move forward to full normalcy and open the economy to reverse the losses that have been caused by the impact of coronavirus. On the issues of workplace vaccines mandate, workplace, especially those with large numbers of employees, have actively played a role in providing vaccination to employees, as well as encouraging workers to vaccinate. We will continue to encourage employers to develop and implement policies that promote the uptake of vaccines within workplaces. The regulations recently published by the Minister of Culture provides an overarching framework that guides various sectors to promote vaccination as part of an incentive to participate in specific gatherings and sporting activities. All these protocols are intended to persuade people to vaccinate in order to contain the spread of COVID-19 infections. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honorable Dulane.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Thank you, Honorable the Deputy President. We are welcome the lowering of restrictions by government as this will enable social and economic activities to further strengthen economic recovery. As you have already answered what I was going to ask, number one, the putting of structural barriers, which you just indicated that 48% instead of 70%, and as the government is putting structures that we must achieve that. But over the past 2 years, coronavirus has been mutating into different variants, which is more deadly than the current dominant Omicron variant. Also, due to government intentions to lift the national state of disaster as soon as the process of public comments on the national health regulation is finalized. Deputy President, may I ask this question? What are the possibilities if are to face another more deadly variant after the lifting of the National Disaster Act? I thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy President.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Yes, I think we've made an assessment as government, and the Department of Health likewise. And based on that assessment, we've identified some key areas that will need strengthening going forward so that we are prepared for any other wave as we go forward. We are mindful that we might face another wave, and we are doing everything possible to get ourselves ready. But we can only be assisted by our people to continue to take the vaccine, because it is proven that vaccines can always assist us from getting seriously ill, being hospitalized, or even die. So, as much as we can do anything to prepare ourselves, but the best preparation is by an individual who must present himself or herself to be vaccinated. And that must happen. Now, We are confident that the amount of people that have presented themselves for vaccination have created sort of a necessary base of immunity going forward. We are not going to be the same when we're struck by the first wave. We're now facing the fifth wave and a number of people have been vaccinated, so the effect won't be the same. And we're still encouraging people to vaccinate, and we correct that some people are not opposed to vaccination, but they can't afford to travel to go to these vaccination sites where they are located. That has been proven in our last week outreach program in the Northern Cape. More than 200 people vaccinated in a space of 2 hours when we're there, because we have brought the facility, the stations there. A number of people tested, screened for TB, a number of people screened for HIV and AIDS. So it is possible that when we take these services closer to the people will take these services. They are not really vehemently opposed to vaccination. Thank you very much.
The next supplementary question is by Honorable Clark.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Good afternoon, Deputy President. Deputy President, in terms of the draft health regulations, 15A states that any person who has been confirmed as having contracted a notifiable medical condition or is suspected of having contracted a NMC may not refuse prophylaxis or treatment. Currently, the only prophylaxis to COVID-19 available is the vaccine. Does this mean that once approved, South Africans could be forced to get the vaccine in such cases? In your capacity as the chairperson of the Interministerial Committee, do these regulations contradict the President's previous announcements that no person would be forced to get a vaccine? And now, although I am a person that 100% supports vaccines, and I have been vaccinated and my family members, it should be one's personal choice. And Deputy President, just a word of caution. Should draconian draft health regulations be approved, they have the ability to keep South Africans under lockdown indefinitely. This is in itself a very dangerous situation in terms of South Africans' freedoms and civil liberties. I thank you.
Sorry. Deputy President.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
It's the Deputy
as
President
government
who must answer. Please, honourable members.
As government, we are consistent. The announcement made by the President, there's no deviation, even from these health regulations. We're still not forcing anyone to vaccinate, but we are persuading people to vaccinate because it's a good thing to do. Now, some people are presenting themselves, they're coming forward. Some, they can't because they can't reach our vaccination sites. So we're doing everything in our power to reach our people.